We continue now at the top of Daf Yud Daled Amud Beis in Maseches Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 14b. The Gemara is discussing Egla Arufa. What do we do with the word umadadu? And we learn from that word that even if the corpse is found be'alil la'ir, Rashi explains be'alil la'ir b'mefursam lakol, it means it's clear to everyone. Shekarov hu la'ir zumi kol ayaros. It's obvious that the corpse is closer to this city than any other city, but still we learn from the word umadadu tzarich lasok b'medida. B'medida, we need to do the measuring anyhow, even though there's no real need to measure in terms of determining which city the corpse is closest to. We still need to engage in the measuring of the body to the closest city. And the Gemara continues, Masnisin de Loki Aitana de Tanya, our Mishnah does not seem to follow the Tana of the following Brisa. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Omer Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, V'yotzu zekeinecha v'shoftecha, again by Egla Arufa, it says that the elders and the judges, they're going to go out and measure, and we learn from there, zekeinecha zu Sanhedrin, zekeinecha refers to the Sanhedrin, v'shoftecha ze melech v'kohen gadol, and shoftecha, that refers to the king and the kohen gadol, they also have to be present, they also go out for the procedure of the Egla Arufa. How do we know v'shoftecha refers to Melech and Kohen Gadol? Melech tichsiv Melech b'mishpat yamid oretz. It says in the pasuk Melech b'mishpat. It talks about mishpat by a Melech, and Kohen Gadol tichsiv uvasal hakohanim halavim v'al hashofet. It talks about the Kohanim, and then it talks about the shofet, and that's how we know that the word shoftecha refers to Melech and Kohen Gadol. And our Mishnah does not seem to be like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is adding the Melech and the Kohen Gadol. And the Gemara continues, they had the following question. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov b'chada polig? Is Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov arguing only in one regards with our Mishnah? Or b'tarti polig? Or maybe he's arguing on 2 points. And the Gemara explains, b'melech v'kohen gadol polig. You could say that he's arguing only with regards to Melech and Kohen Gadol. Aval b'Sanhedrin, but in terms of the number of members of Sanhedrin that have to come out, Ikar Rabbi Yehuda, Ikar Rabbi Shimon, he either follows Rabbi Yehuda or Rabbi Shimon, but fundamentally agrees with our Mishnah. Odilmar, maybe b'Sanhedrin nami polig. Maybe he argues also in terms of Sanhedrin, because again, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon discuss how many judges, 3 judges, 5 judges, but maybe he disagrees completely. Diyamar kula Sanhedrin, but maybe he says that you need the entire Sanhedrin. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yosef says, Tashma, come in here a proof from the following Brisa. Mitzana Beis Pagi, this is talking about a Zaken Mamre. This is an elder who rebels against the Sanhedrin. Let's say he finds the Sanhedrin at Beis Pagi, which is an area right outside of Yerushalayim, Vehimra Alein, and he rebels against them. Yochel Te'amra, so Hamra, I might think that's considered to be a rebellion. Talmud Lomer V'kamtav Yolisa El Hamokum. The pasuk says that you're going to get up and go to the place. Melamed in this pasuk teaches us Shehamokum Gorim, that the place is significant, that the place where the Sanhedrin sits is significant, and therefore Zaken Mamre only takes place in the area where the Sanhedrin sits, which is by the Beis HaMikdash. And the Gemara now says, the Nafekam, in this Brisa, how many of the Sanhedrin actually went out? How many were in this area outside of the regular place of the Sanhedrin? Ilema Miksasan, if you're going to say it's just some of the Sanhedrin, so then that wouldn't be Zaken Mamre anyway. Dilma Hanach Diika Gavoy Kaimi Kavasi, because maybe those Sanhedrin that remained behind in the right place, so to speak, maybe they held like the Zaken Mamre, so therefore it's not a case of rebellion at all. So Elabshita, rather, isn't it obvious, the Nafik Kulu, that the entire Sanhedrin went out to this place, and again the Zaken Mamre went there, and he rejected their ruling, he rebelled against them. But why did they all leave? Lamai, for what reason did they leave? Ileimu ledavar harashus, if you say that they left for something that was just a rishus, something voluntary, mimatzu nafki, are they allowed to leave? Vaksib, but it's written in the pasuk Sharech Hagan Hasar al Yechzer Hamozeg, and we learn from this pasuk al Yechzer Hamozeg that you always have to leave behind a significant number of the Sanhedrin, as we'll see Rashi in a moment, and so they can't all leave for a davar rishus. And so the Gemara says, Elab Shita, rather, isn't it obvious, L'dvar mitzvah, that what they're leaving for is a dvar mitzvah. Now, what's the mitzvah? Hey, Chidami, what exactly is the case? Lav lemedidas egla, isn't it for the measuring of egla arufa? For Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, and it follows Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Diamar Kule Sanhedrin Boinan, who says that we need the entire Sanhedrin. And you see that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov holds that the entire Sanhedrin needs to go out by the measuring of the egla arufa. And the Gemara continues, Amarle Abaye says to him, Lo, no, Kagon Shiyatzu Lahosef Aloir Ve'al Hazaros. It could be that they left for another reason. They went out in order to add to the city, talking about Yerushalayim or to the courtyards, and that you need the Sanhedrin for. Kedetanan, as we learned in a Mishnah, in Mosifan Aloir Ve'al Hazaros, you can't add on to the city or the courtyards, Ela Bebezdin Shel Shivim V'echad, unless you have the court of 71. But the Gemara continues, Tanya Kavase de Rav Yosef. Nevertheless, we have a brisa that supports Rav Yosef. The Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov holds that they all need to leave for the measuring of the Egla Arufa. It says, Mitzon abeis pagi v'himra alei, and again, talking about the Zaken Mamre, if he finds them abeis pagi, and he rebels against them, he rejects their ruling. Kagon sheyatzu lemedidas Egla, for example, they go out in order to measure Egla Arufa, ulhosav alo ir ve'alo azaros, or to add on to the city and the courtyards. You see that it mentions specifically medidas Egla. Yachol shetei hamra so hamra, one might think that that's considered a rebellion. Again, Talmud Lomar, the pasuk says, "V'kamta v'yalisa al hamakom." You're going to get up and go to the place. Melamed shehamakom gorim. It teaches that the place is significant, and so you see from this brisa like Rav Yosef. And Rashi explains, "Sharech hagan hasar ksiv v'darshinan be'echad dinei mamonis." We darshan from this pasuk al yechzer hamazig. What does it mean al yechzer hamazig? It can't be lacking. Im nitzrech echad mehen lotzes. If one of the members of the Sanhedrin needs to leave, im yesham esrim ushlosha keneged Sanhedrin katana yotze. As long as there remains behind 23 judges, like the amount of a Sanhedrin Katan, of a smaller Sanhedrin, then he's allowed to leave. Im lavein or yotze. If not, he can't leave. You have to leave behind at least that number. Al ha'ir, and if they want to add on to the city, meaning al Yerushalayim, they want to add on to Yerushalayim. V'tzarech lekadesh hatosefes b'shtei todos uv'shir. You have to make that addition. You have to make it holy. Kedaminim b'shvuas, like we say in Shvuas. And so again, for that you need the Sanhedrin. And the Gemara continues with the two dots. The Mishnah said neta ravoy with regards to valuations of fourth-year saplings, or Meiser Sheni, if you need to do a valuation of Meiser Sheni, She'ein Dam of Yidun, you don't know its value, Bishlosha, that needs 3 people to do those valuations. And the Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis thought, Ezo Meiser Sheni She'ein Dam of Yidun, what would be an example of Meiser Sheni where you don't know its value? Peiro Shir Kivu, if you have fruits that rotted, V'yayin Shehikram, you have wine that developed a film, Umos Shehechlidu, where you have money that's rusted. In those cases, you need a valuation to determine what it's worth. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis thought, Meiser Sheni She'ein Dam of Yidun, if you have Meiser Sheni and you don't know the value, Podin Oso Bishlosha Lekuchos, you redeem it with 3 people who are purchasers. They're experts in valuations. Avalo Bishlosha She'ein Lekuchos. You can't just use 3 ordinary people who are not Lekuchos. Afilu Nachri Echad Mehen, and even if a non-Jew is one of them, that's fine. Afilu Echad Mehen Bailim, even if one of them is the owner, that's also fine. Boy, Reb Yirmiyah asks, Shloshim atilin l'soch kis echad ma. What if you have 3 people and they all partake from one kiss, from one purse, meaning 3 partners? Are they considered like 3 separate people for this with regards to this issue, or are they considered like one person because they're business partners? That's the question of the Gemara. And the Gemara says, Tashma, come here, the following proof: Ish ushtei nashav podin meiser sheni she'ein dam of Yidun. It says a man and his 2 wives are allowed to redeem meiser sheni if its value is not known, even though they're clearly considered partners. But they're considered 3 separate individuals with regards to valuations. But the Gemara says that's no proof, because Dilma, maybe that Bryce is talking Kagon Rav Papa Ubas Abba Surah. Maybe it's like Rav Papa and his wife, who was the daughter of Abba Surah. Their finances were completely independent, even though they were married. So it would be no proof from this Bryce with a man and 2 wives. Maybe their finances are completely separate. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots, Hekdeshos Bishlosha. The Mishnah said that when we are valuing Hekdesh, that is with 3 people. And the Gemara says, Masnisan Deloki Haitana de Tanya. Our Mishnah does not follow the Tana in the following brayso. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, Afilu Tzinura Shel Hekdesh, even a fork of Hekdesh, Tzricha Asara b'nei Adam Liftos, requires 10 people to redeem it. You need 10 for the valuation, not 3. And the Gemara continues, Amalei Rav Papa li Abaya. Rav Papa says to Abaya, B'shlomo Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. I understand Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, he says you need 10 people. Diamar Kashmuel, he's saying like Shmuel. Diamar Shmuel, Kashmuel says, Asara Kohanim, Ksuvin b'Parsha, mentions Kohanim 10 times in the Parsha, and so we learn out you need 10 people for that valuation. Elul Rabbanan Shlosha Minalhu, but the Rabbanan, where did they get the number 3 from? V'chitema dechsibu Shlosha, and if you're going to say it's because it says 3 times Kohen, so Karkos dechsibu Arba, so by land where it says 4 times, Teski Arba, so then 4 should be sufficient. V'chitema hachinamin, if you're going to say indeed that is the case, that 4 is sufficient, Alama Tanan, why did we learn in the Mishnah HaKarkos Tishav Kohen, that by Karka, by land, it's 9 plus a Kohen? Elamai, so rather what do you have to say by land? The Mishal Mibu Asara, that if you take the cumulative number of times, we'll see Rashi in a moment, it's 10 times. So Hekdesho, so by Hekdesh also, the Mishalmi Bushis, if we take the cumulative number until that point, it's going to be 6 times that it says Kohanim. So then Libo Shisa, so then it should require 6. So we're not really going to understand where the Rabbanan get 3 from. And the Gemara says Kasha, the Gemara leaves that as a difficulty. And Rashi explains, Asara Kohanim Ksuvin, 10 times it says Kohanim Bepidyon Hekdeshos. This is talking about by redemption of Hekdesh. Shlosha beparshas Erchin Shi Rishon. It says 3 times in Parshas Erchin, which is the first parsha. Ushlosha bepidyon behema, and then it says 3 times by pidyon behema. V'arba bekarkos, and then it says 4 times by karka, by land. So ilema mishum dechsibu shlosha. So the Gemara said, where do we get 3 from? If you're going to say it's because it says 3 times, again, as we said, by pidyon behema, it says 3 times kohanim. Kohanim bepidyon behema, it says kohanim 3 times by pidyon behema. Dehainu pidyon hektish, which is pidyon hektish, v'uadin l'shar kedeshos, and that would be true by other hektish. That's where the Rabbanan say, that's where they get that you need 3. That's where they get that you need 3 when it comes to the redemption of pidyon behema or pidyon of any kind of hektish. But then tiski bi'arba. But then when it comes to land, if that's what they're saying when it comes to pidyon hektish, then when it comes to land, 4 should be enough. As we said, by land, arba bikarkos. Rashi said it says 4 times by karka. Aloma tanan hakarkos tishav kohen. Why by karka do we say that it's 9 plus a kohen? That's a total of 10. Elamisham hachi boy karkos asar. Or rather, it must be the reason why 10 is required by land, misham the parsha achroni, because that's the last parsha, as Rashi just said above. Uchidashol in parshas karkos, and we're going to go by the cumulative number at that point in time. Kvar nishlamu yud kohanim. We already have it saying 10 times kohanim. V'til matachtonim elyonim. You're going to learn it out from everything that is above. Again, as Rashi said, it says 3 times by Erchin, which is the first section of the parsha, then 3 times by pidyon behema, which is pidyon hektish, that's the second section, and then 4 times by karka. So you'll go by cumulative at that point in time. So by karka, it's going to be 10. But again, as Rashi continues, if that's the case, then hekdeshos, when it comes to hektish, dahainu pidyon behema tameya, which is referring to the redemption of behema tameya, shiem tzois, which is the middle parsha, as we just said, u'mishalmi bo shisa kohanim. So at that point, you have it saying kohanim 6 times. Do'ichtevol parshas Erchin gabon bo shisa. Again, by Erchin, it says it 3 times as well. So cumulative, it should come out to a total of 6. And again, the Gemara left that as a kasha, the Gemara left that as a difficulty. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Erchin, when it comes to Erchin, and the Gemara says, my Erchin hametaltalin. What does it mean when it says Erchin hametaltalin? And Rashi here explains, Erech lo shayach gabe kelim. Erech, which is fixed valuations, that's not something that's relevant to vessels. Ela ba'adim, it's relevant only to people. V'nosin lefi shanav, and you go according to the age of the person. Kimosha kasav parsha, like it's written in the parsha. And again, the Mishnah said that Erchin requires 3, but it uses the term Erchin hametaltalin. And the question is, what is Erchin hametaltalin? That would not seem to refer to people. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Gidol Amar Rav. Rav Gidol says that Rav says, Ba'omer Erech kli ze olai. What the person said is that the fixed valuation of this vessel is upon me. The Amar Rav Gidol Amar Rav, because Rav Gidol said that Rav said, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tesvav Amar Aleph.